What's going on, everybody? Today on the show, we have a repeat offender that's coming to give us game today. Best believe, and if you've heard the first episode, you know her pedigree. She's the founder of Urban Teach, and it's funny because I always say her name as Urban Teach, like I just do the Instagram, which is an online education and seminar company that is focusing on personal finance, building wealth. Here's her story, and she's going to get into it in a little bit, but she didn't even do college. She actually attended a trade school in hotel management, where she rose through the ranks. She's been, she did that for about 20 years or so, and used her experience to then translate that into trading stocks and buying real estate. And now she's sharing her knowledge with everybody else, but I definitely want to be able to get a chance to dig into her story. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Rosa, how's everything?
Hey, what it's up? That was a great intro. Thank you.
Well, you make it easy. I tell my guests like their background makes it easy for me. I just got to read through it, so that's all.
Got it. All right. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me again. I always love to chat with you.
It's always good, and we'll jump right into this. Take us back. What was it like? Kind of, I know you probably wanted more, and you were, thinking of ways to further expand professionally. Growing up in the boogie down Bronx, tell us what that was like, and that impact on going into then stocks and real estate.
Yes. So I grew up in the Bronx. I decided on my first year or my first semester in college, which I only went for one semester. So I want to clarify that.
Oh, okay. I got you.
I decided that I did not want to take out student loans and invest all this money because obviously I come from humble beginnings. My parents couldn't afford to pay for school. I saw other kids that were older than me that was already in school, taking money out for loans and all of that. And I decided that, you know what, it wasn't for me, first of all. And I just needed something to get me started in the job, in the job field so I can generate income. So that was my main purpose of, leaving a 4-year school and enrolling into a 10-month hospitality program, which was in New York City. And just deciding that, I just wanted hands-on experience. I wanted to get my foot in the door in hospitality. I always heard about hotels and the travel industry. I loved traveling as a child. I went, down to the Caribbean a lot in the summers to see my grandparents. So I always thought, it would be a cool career, right? To work in hospitality. So I did that. I started working as a PBX operator, answering phones 8 hours a day. At the age of 18, 19, right after that first semester that I tanked in. And then the rest is history. I ended up staying with the company for about 7 years. I kind of grew through the different positions, transferred out of being an operator into reservations, then worked in sales a little bit, then worked the front desk. So I got a lot of experience within a hotel. So I was able to try everything out and then figure out what I wanted to stay in for the long haul, which ended up being revenue management. So that was my expertise. So with revenue management, fast forward 10, 12 years later, I was able to move down to Miami, work for some boutique hotels down there, come back to New York, work in the city in Times Square, properties, open up a few hotels with my company in other places like Canada and Panama City. And because I spoke Spanish, I got lucky. They will always kind of transfer me around to, different areas. But yeah, so after that, I just figured I just really wanted to build a career out of that. But as I climbed up the ranks, it just became more and more difficult to have a life-work balance, working 50, 60 hours a week. The stress, corporate America.
Yeah.
Ownership, breathing down your neck.
Yep.
And then after a while, I was like, this is not how I want to live my life. I always spoke to other people that were full-time employees for a long time. And, the whole climb up the ranks is great and all, but I needed more freedom than that. And I always have the business bug in my ear, like, okay, start something. So I figured that starting Urban Teach, which was, kind of what I used to do on my spare time, was learn things on my own and teach people different things. What's the best way to kind of roll with that? Roll out of corporate into that. Yeah. So that was it. Yeah.
Question for that. Do you think your experience of all those years and all those different jobs set you up to where you are now? Like, did you take a little task you learned in this position, some in this position? I know you mentioned you were a call operator and some other positions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So with every position, I always tell people that if you're a good employee, or if you take the time to learn every facet of your job and you take bits and pieces of it, you can build something for yourself, right? Because obviously job experience shouldn't just be clocking in and out. It really should be about, what can I learn? How can I improve a skill? It can be anything. You can clean hotel rooms and be the best housekeeper, the best housekeeper that can be, and start your own cleaning company. Like everything goes. You can take any small skill that might to you not sound like a big thing and turn it into a business. So I always had that in the back of my head. Every position I held, I was like, all right, what can I learn here that I can apply later on into my own thing? So like, for example, like learning Excel, that was a big part of my job, because everything was about spreadsheets and numbers. So I made sure that I attended every Excel training that I could take, that I would sit at home and play around with spreadsheets and pivot tables and things like that. So now in my business, I use Excel for almost everything to track, my sales, my website views, even my Instagram growth. Like, all right, how many views I'm getting this week, how many following, what are my ads doing? I put all that stuff into Excel. And funny enough, I learned Excel from the job, right? So there's always a way to learn things.
Yeah, and I think that, because one of the biggest rifts, especially now, is the entrepreneur versus the employee, as if one is better than the next, right? And and it wasn't until this year, for the most part, where yes, there are perks and pros and cons with each, but the biggest thing that was a light bulb was how harmonious the employee and entrepreneur relationship is, because most entrepreneurs, and I'm definitely speaking about myself, are not organized. Nowhere near organized. Like, I am nowhere near organized at all. And I struggle with the process part of it. I'm great at implementing. I'm great at the vision. I'm great at the tenacity. But the process, step by step, I am not great at all. And I realized entrepreneurs create, and then the employees make it perfect. And I think it's so key that people so in your case where whatever the hotel management, as far as the company, they wouldn't be able to work on opening more hotels and doing, sitting at the front desk.
Doing doing the day-to-day stuff.
Right. And even if they wouldn't do it great. They wouldn't do it as efficient or better than an individual that is just there for that position. So I wanted to point that out, because I like how, and I'm learning more now, just the step-by-step process and how that translates into how you basically do everything. And it's so key. And I want people to understand that, because there's this big beef that's going on, Biggie, Tupac, Bloods, Cribs, entrepreneur, employee. And it's it doesn't have to be like that.
It doesn't have to be. At the end of the day, it's just, it's stress. You're going to have stress in corporate America. You're going to have stress in entrepreneur.
Listen, it comes with its own set of stresses. We work all the time. We know how it is. There's no days off here. Just because I do my own thing doesn't mean I'm lounging, watching TV all day,
Right.
My Austin, which is entrepreneurs that have not been in the workforce, or have had a routine-like mode of experience. It's very hard for them to get into that systematic way of running a business, right? And I've noticed that with coaching a lot of people, through the last 3 years of Urban Teach. I used to do some coaching at the beginning, and I got the same thing. It was I was trying to position people to more structure to get their business off the ground. And I was getting pushback like crazy. That's not how I do it. That's not how I feel today. That's not. And I'm like, okay, but if it's a business, there's certain things that you're not going to like doing that has to be systematic. in order for your business to grow, right? So
And
that's
just
a great
hire
point.
it out.
Yeah.
Like that's my big thing this year. Like I'm literally documenting every single step of the process, and whatever like is my like what's needed for me, I want to be there. If not, I'm hiring it
That's
out.
right.
I'm not doing it anymore. But it's
Yes.
going to get done, right? Like
Right.
like yes, it's going to get done.
That's a good point. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So where does the fun begin, right? Like where does the like how does that translate? Which I commend you on having the mindset of not wanting to take on like extra student loan debt and things like that. But where does the magic happen? When do you start to, you know, was it landlording first and then stocks or vice versa?
I started with stocks first. So I
Okay,
was
so tell us about like that transition and yeah.
Yeah. So as I started, making a very good income when I got into upper management, I did the 401k thing. So I was putting money into that. I was maxing it out every year. But then I also started, talking to other people within that high level management tier that did not look like me and you. Right. And those conversations were always so eye opening because it was always about, I opened an account up for my son. Let me call my broker real quick while we were having lunch. And I would be like, broker, what's a broker? What do you need a broker for? And I would just be very curious and ask a lot of questions. And then I realized that, people are playing in this market and people that have jobs, that are high level execs, they put a lot of money into the market and they have people that are experienced that help them navigate the whole investment thing. So I got very curious. I started back in 2005 with buying, I think it was like, I can't remember if it was Best Buy first or Netflix first, but when Netflix first became public, I got like $2,000 worth. I took my income tax check,
there we go,
return that year, and I just threw it right into a whatever E-Trade account. I can't even remember, but it was at $4 a share.
What's it at now? I don't even know.
It's like 400 last time I checked. 4 something. Yeah, hundreds.
Yahtzee. There we
but
go.
I bought at $4 a share. I thought it was a G. I was so excited when it went to like 5 and 6 and 7. And then I ended up selling at 16. So I quadrupled my money in like a year. And then got very excited about it. So I started learning some more, got some books, started watching those shows on stock investing. And then every year made it a point to just not just invest in 401k, but to also put money in the market. So it was good brain training for me to sit across from these people that were like, usually doing it like as a hobby, I think, or as, passed on from their parents to them, and now they were passing it on to their kids. Meanwhile, in my home in the Bronx, we never spoke about stocks. I mean, my parents were barely able to like pay the rent that month, So it was a whole new situation for me. It made me very curious, which is why I always tell people, exposing yourself and your kids to others is probably the best lesson you'll ever teach them, because it's only so much that we can show them, with our upbringing. But there's so many other cultures out there, really, really setting up these kids from like the very beginning. So that was very eye-opening. So that's what I did. I taught my brother how to play in the stock market. My sister's now doing options. So it's like a whole family thing. Ben is part of BWO. Ben, my husband.
Yeah.
So he's part of BWO. He's doing his option courses, and we're doing well with that. So that's kind of our side thing right now.
Nice.
I think you mentioned something very, very important. Networking helped you to start in the stock market. A lot of people are timid and scared to start networking with people that they know, like in their jobs, upper management and things like that. They're scared to begin that conversation. How did you kick off that conversation to start speaking about them, to learn more about stocks?
Well, it really happened. It was very casual. I would have lunches with them and I would hear them talk, till eventually I had to say, all right, I need to ask some questions. I can't just sit here and listen and pretend that I know what I'm hearing. I didn't know any of those terms they were talking about, and that was one of my bosses. He would call his broker in front of me and say, transfer 25K out of this and out of that. And he would have these conversations in front of me. And I just sat there like, eating. And then eventually I was like, why am I not asking the question? Like, he's accessible to me. So I just had to find it in me to ask, and, he was gracious enough to share a lot of information, which is why I got confident enough to even start. So just I tell people, just ask, you'll get shut down, fine, you move on to the next person. But you might get lucky and someone might share, all of their secrets with you. So why not?
Not even knocking it. But
Yeah.
so then you use those funds, and now that goes into real estate. Is that that conveyor belt mentality of I make money, and I hear it on the bigger podcast a lot, but like I make money, I amplify the money, and then I invest the money, right? So like you made the money, you amplified it by doing a little bit of 401k here, your experience just with Netflix and that profit. So you amplified it there. And now you're, probably investing that into the longer term, like wealth building opportunities. Yes. So was real estate always on your mind, or was it something where like that was just another like investment vehicle?
It was always on my mind. It's just that I was living in the city. So I was living I grew up in the Bronx. Then I moved to Harlem and I lived in Washington Heights. So that was my last stop in New York before I moved over to Jersey. I was paying a lot of money in rent, in small little apartment. I had no parking for my car. I mean, it was bus stop noises right out your window, that whole mess. And, one day I just had to sit, like I got my rent increase notice from the landlord. And I remember looking at it and thinking, I can't pay this much money to stay here like another year. So I literally sat down and like did all my numbers. And I came to the conclusion that I had spent like $150,000 on rent in the course of like 9 years or 10 years, whatever that was. And I was like, I have nothing to show for it. I do my taxes every year. My accountant's like, do you have any write-offs? Nope, no write-offs, no kids, no property, no nothing. So I was getting hit with that every year. So it already started, like replaying itself that I had to get into real estate somehow. So that year I decided, that was 2011. So 2012, that I would leave the city and move to Jersey and find myself a property. I already knew I couldn't buy property in the boroughs. It was going to be too expensive. I wanted more space. I didn't want to live like all crammed up. So I knew Jersey would be the best next option. So that's what I did. I just took some money, fixed my credit, which was not looking the greatest back then. I took money out of my 401k. I took about 10K out for reserves, which they let you do for first-time home buyers. So I did that. What else? And
how did you? Because since Jonathan's the mortgage officer of the hour, like how did you? How did you fund that? Talk about like how did you fund that deal, or which loan program that you used in order to do that?
Yes. So I did FHA, 3.5% down. I got a 2-family with a bonus apartment. So literally like a 3-family, but really a 2.
3-family.
Yeah.
2.5, how we call it.
2 plus bonus. I love when they say bonus. It's like.
I love it.
Right. I got 3.5. It was about 10,000 down. Closing cost was like another 7. So with like 15, I was all in, for my first purchase. It came with a tenant. So I was very lucky because one of the units was already occupied. The house was in very old condition. So I just used a lot of my savings and investment money to rehab it and kind of bring it up to more modern looks. I stayed there for about a year and a half. So I was able to then get it all fully rented and then continue investing from there. But that was my first jump into real estate. I didn't know anything about being a landlord. I literally had to figure it all out on my own. A lot of Google searches, a lot of phone calls. I had an uncle who's a handyman. So I would like pick him up at the bridge from the Heights, drive him over, go to Home Depot, pick up the floor tiles and the paint and all that good stuff. So it was like, I did it from the ground up. Like it was crazy.
Okay.
And I was dating Ben back then, and Ben was in Brooklyn, and he would be like, what are you doing this weekend? I'm like, I'm going to Home Depot again. And I was in Home Depot like months every weekend. It was crazy, but it was worth it because I learned a lot. So.
Right.
Sounds like you were very resourceful, and that's what I definitely recommend to first-time landlords. Be resourceful. Use what you have, and then ask what you don't know.
That's right. People think they have to know it all from the very get, and no one operates that. If you wait for that, then you'll never do it. You'll never make it happen. because you're not going to have all the questions answered, right? Like I still don't have questions answered. I have to still figure things out. So,
Same here, every day.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of reaching out and, you know, being open-minded, flexible, and then doing it.
Do you have any like landlord, and we're all landlords here, and me and Jonathan always wind up sharing our landlord horror stories. And do you have one for us? I know that wasn't even planned, but I just happened to think about it because I think, you know, you mentioned, and it's because of John mentioning, you know, ask what you don't know, and I feel like a lot of people don't want to bust a move because they don't know, and that they're nervous, or maybe they've heard stories, or maybe, you know, whatever the case, and they're like, yo, I don't want to get into that at all. Do you have a story or anything that, like, you know, what was your moment where you're like, I'm not sure that I want to do this? Like, I'm pretty sure every landlord has had that. Like, am I sure, like, I really want to be a landlord? Like,
yeah, you know, I've been really lucky. Like, I haven't had any crazy moments, but I think that comes from my upbringing because I already saw enough crazy growing up. So certain things to me were like, I'll just handle it. You know, I'll get it done.
Gotcha. So that's a key point you mentioned. It's all about mindset then. So it's how you look at things, not how you look at things, how you take things, how you react.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, let's see, the craziest thing, the worst thing really was renting out a unit to a friend of someone that I knew. And then that's when I changed my rules about renting to friends and family, which I posted about like last week. So I rented to my daughter's after school teacher, had a friend that was looking for a place. So I trusted the after school teacher, but I knew nothing about her friends. So I told her, you know what, have her apply. She applies for the unit, send her a rental application. She puts down that she's a personal assistant. She gets paid in cash, so she doesn't have pay stubs. And I was like, okay. Not to run her credit report because she didn't want her credit dropping. So she would use her mom to co-sign for her. I was like, okay. So again, I was putting too much weight on the fact that this girl that I knew and trusted knew her. So I was using her more as like the reference. I didn't bother to check her employment status. I didn't check, you know, her credit. And a month in, she was already like throwing parties in the unit, having like 7 people sleep over. The other tenants are like, I smell weed. There's like a fight in front of my door. You know, she banged into the fence last night. And it was just like every day was something new. Every day was something new. I had to install cameras. I was in Italy with Ben for like a week. From there, I was checking the cameras and I was like, what the hell is going on here? I mean, it was so traumatic for me, but I was like, you know what? That's what I get for trusting someone that I didn't even know. But because they were friends with someone that I did know, you know, I didn't do my due diligence. So that was my fault. So I learned that lesson. Yeah. But eventually I got her out. It was like 4 months in and I was like, you got to get out. She was even threatening me. It was like, it got that bad. Yeah. So
that's not too bad. 4 months, you got her out. That's pretty good.
4 months. She had to leave her home because it got a little crazy. Yeah. Well, I didn't get the courts involved, but the Bronx had to, you know, a little bit.
Yeah, she got out real quick. She forgot about that.
So that was the worst. That was the worst I've had. Yeah.
Jonathan, what you got? I know we talked about, but what you got?
I got a couple stories, man. Come on. I got horror stories.
Just pick one that's funny. Give me one.
One that's funny. All right. So the first horror story was I was being cheap. My first rental property. I'm like, upstairs doesn't need heat. I'm not paying for that. It's fine. Turn it off. Me and the missus go to Walmart. We come back. What's that leaking? Luckily, everything is vacant. I just bought the property. I just moved in that weekend. Luckily, we moved in that weekend. Pipes burst. Water leaking down to the section.
Oh yeah,
I'm panicking here. What should I do? What should I do? So I'm calling people that are homeowners. Well, what can I do? Turn on the main water line. Right. I'm looking for it. Where is it? Panicking, FaceTiming everybody, and I finally found it and turned it off. Don't be cheap.
Yeah,
but I think I would have done the same thing,
especially in the winter.
It was freezing. December 26th.
Oh, right after Christmas.
Yeah, that's bad. No, I don't.
But luckily, I was here. I was gonna move the next day. If I did, I would have came into.
Oh, it could have been worse. Yeah.
So at least I was here.
Okay.
The most random, most recent one was just, and I put this and I posted about it, was that there was a sewer line backup in the main street, nothing to do with my property. Okay. Basements never flooded, no problems. And of course, I just bought this property in November, and I think it was the December or January, no, maybe February, whatever case. But 2 months after, tenant calls me like, yo, we got sewage water that's coming through all the in the basement. I'm like, what? And I'm like, how did that happen? And long story short, there was a backup in the street, nothing to do with my house. And of course, because my house didn't have a sub pump, mine was the only house on the block supposedly that didn't have a sub pump. It got into the because I have a basement tenant apartment, and got in all this stuff. Literally, and it wasn't it's not like it's fresh groundwater or anything like that. It definitely was, probably the
traumatizing.
Stuff that the first, second, and third floor tenant just flushed the toilet, and then now it was coming back into the house on that poor basement tenant. So I had to call in a restoration company, and that was a mess. And then literally a week later, which I felt what you were saying, Rosa, when you're in Italy, and it's the worst when you're traveling and you're trying to have peace of mind. And we were in Houston, and having a grand old time. And of course, I get a call and they're like, yo, it happened again. And I'm like, are you serious? So that was, and again, and this has nothing to do with my particular property. It just was something that happened in the street. So so we had to do a sewer clean out. I had to get a pump installed because I don't want that to happen again. But
no.
That was the most recent one. That's just random stuff. But all right, all good.
That's it comes with the territory, right? So
yeah.
That's what I tell people. It comes with the territory. You can't expect it to be.
List of all the
I have a list. Yeah, but everything that has happened, would I do it again? 100%.
Right. Yeah, same here. I don't have any regrets. I'm like, give me that equity check.
Pay me, yes.
Yep.
Pay me an equity.
Reverse out of debt.
Give me that check, that monthly check on the first, so I could just not have to work in the morning. I'm good.
I agree. So let's talk about just before we head into the core four here, which judging by how much Zoom is giving us on our time, but we'll make it work. They have a 5-limit time limit here, but if anything, we'll jump right back on just to finish the core four. But I would like to ask, or let's see if we can do it in 5 minutes. Take us where you envision Urban Teach going. Take us, what's the future hold? Are you? I'm assuming that you're buying more properties, you're investing more stocks. What's the future hold for you?
Yeah, so with Urban Teach, I just launched Urban Teach Latinx. So that's going to be all of my content, but in Spanish. So I want to make sure that I, teach the Latino community how to buy homes in Spanish, how to get a loan, how to, calculate their numbers, cash flow, rental properties, all that good stuff. So I launched that, a month ago to a month and a half ago. I have a website for it. I have its own individual page. Hoping to load some courses. UrbanTeachLatinx.com. Yes. So for the future, yes, it would be having both sides, right? Urban Teach and then Urban Teach Latinx kind of work in tandem. So whatever I do here, I do there. And then in the fall, I was going to do it in the summer, but I'm now pushing it out a bit because we don't know yet what the COVID situation is going to look like. But I do want to get a learning studio, where I can teach some classes in person, have other events, have networking events, have masterminds, boot camps, things like that, on learning, all specific to real estate. When I first started Urban Teach, I was kind of a little bit all over the place. I was doing financial literacy, real estate, and online store education, e-commerce. But then I had to narrow it down to just real estate because I just felt like it was too all over the place, and it was driving me a little bananas. So I'm just keeping it very focused to Air BnB, Section 8, and the rental business. So that's kind of the new 2021 face over.
And I love how the employee nature kicked back in, and you entrepreneur brain was like, yo, let me do this. This is great. And you were like, employee mindset stepped right back in and was like, yo, we got to narrow it just to be able to systemize it, do it consistently. Yes. And I love how it's continuing to happen.
Yes, and that's exactly what happened. You know, I have the business owner brain, so it's like I get excited and hyper about new things, right? I'm like, oh, I can teach about this, so I can bring this person on and teach about that, and then I lose focus, right? And I think it happens to a lot of us because we're like, we want to put our hands in every bucket, and it's like, no, we can't do it that way. You know, if you do that, then you spread yourself thin. You don't do any of it well. You're just kind of like, you know, basically just getting over. And so that's why I had to decide to like stay focused on just those things. So, and it's working well for me too. I can sleep better at night, and I get other ideas that I can implement, but specific to those topics, which is really working.
Okay, so yes, talk to us about Airbnb or like Airbnb. Like, why Airbnb? Why do you like that model? I think a lot of people think that it's a more of a vacation home kind of
Mm-hmm.
model. Why Airbnb? Out of curiosity.
Yes. So you know, during COVID and all of the issues that were coming up with, you know, tenants not being able to pay, I had to dig and figure out if there was a way to pivot, you know, out of renting properties to a tenant, long-term tenant, versus renting it to Airbnb. So Airbnb can tell you based on your zip code and your area, or even your address, how much money they expect to bring into you per month on a per month basis. So Airbnb will give you that information. So if I type in an address and I say, I'm going to get this property ready for 2 occupants or 4 or 6, you know, depending on the amount of beds that you're going to have, it will spit out a number for you. So in this specific unit that I converted that was vacant, my tenant moved out in December. I had to paint and do some things. So I was like, you know what, I'll paint. Let me figure out with Airbnb how much more money I can get. So I was renting it to him for $10.50. Airbnb was telling me that they can get me $13.50 per month for the same unit. But of course, you know, you have to invest in furnishing the place. So I did some digging, some searching, you know, some numbers calculations. With about $900, I was able to furnish it. You know, TV, couch, a bed, platform to hold the bed. Went to TJ Maxx, got a bunch of, you know, decor, towels, sheets, all that good stuff. And then, so my spend was about 900. I was going to rent it for about $13.90 a month. That was the estimated revenue per month. So in 3 months, I was going to make back my money on the furnishing side. The other good part is that now you don't have a tenant to worry about on contracts. If this person stops paying rent and these extensions keep happening in our state, you know, the whole non-eviction, non-whatever, you don't have to worry about evictions with an Airbnb tenant. You know, they're there for the amount of time they're there and then they go. And in addition to that, I joined a lot of groups on the vacation model, you know, renting vacation terms and furnished model as well. And what a lot of them say is that, you know, you can niche it down to a specific demographic. So for me, because this unit is located right in between Holy Name Hospital, Hackensack Hospital, and Englewood. So I have 3 hospitals near me. The property's like right in the middle of those 3. So my goal was to find a long-term stay in the nurse niche, which is an actual market niche, you know, nurses that come into your area to work in these hospitals. So I got very lucky because that's exactly what I found. I was able to price it out for 14 nights or more. So I only did a minimum of 14 nights, but I gave it enough of a discount for it to make sense when I priced it on Airbnb. Airbnb lets you price your unit as long as you do your homework, or you can set it up so that they price it for you, depending on what the market is doing on a specific night. So again, that experience came from the hotel side, because that's what I did with the hotels.
There it is.
My job was to like price the hotel rooms. That was my job. So I translated, you know, all of these years of me, like I was trashing Airbnb for years because they were taking so much money out of the hotel industry. And then all of a sudden, like the bell went off and I was like, what am I doing? I don't even care about the hotel industry anymore. I don't work for them. I need to like take what I know and translate it. So long story short, so I'm getting about 30% more in rental income from one unit on Airbnb. And again, yes, you have to factor in, you know, the cleaning and all that. But if I'm having people stay for 10, 14 nights in a row, I don't have to worry about doing any of that. You don't have to offer cleaning necessarily for someone that's staying long term. And then, these are also people that come from like Georgia, California. They want to come into the New York area and stay for a week or two. It's cheaper for them to stay in an Airbnb than to stay in a hotel. My unit has parking included. I have Wi-Fi, I have cable on the TV. So, you just got to make it comfortable enough for someone to want to stay there. And again, depending on your location. So like if you're in Newark, in the Newark area, near the train, near the bars and the restaurants, once things open up again, you'll be able to make money as well, because you don't always have to stick to the long-term strategy. You can just do like the weekend strategy, where on the weekends people come into town, they eat, they party, they drink, then they go back to wherever they live. So it's working. I'm going to get a couple of more this year. I'm looking at Jersey City, I'm looking at Washington Heights, and I'm looking at Union City, New Jersey. So those are my target areas right now.
And are those multi-families that you're like trying, like, or like, are these like condos, or like, how are you, like, what's your criteria?
So for
like, how do you know if it's a good deal for you?
So for those, I'm actually going to rent them out. I'm going to rent those to put them on Airbnb, which you can also do. So you don't have to be an owner to put on properties on Airbnb.
Oh, you're going to go with that model?
Yes. Ooh. So I have both. I'm going to do both. The ones that I own in the right locations, because I don't have a location here where I'm at now that would yield me Airbnb income, because there's just not much going on. But these other areas like Jersey City, Union City, there's not enough listings in those areas on the Airbnb website for the potential demand that exists, especially now when things open up, like for the spring and summer. A lot of people come into these areas to like go to the waterfront, go to the bars, go to the clubs, and then they head out.
Interesting.
So I'm going to look to rent in those areas. I'm actually talking to a couple of landlords right now that are going to let me rent from them. Yeah.
And they're okay with it? Because I think that was like the biggest, like...
You have to get permission. Yeah, it can't be like behind their backs. You have to get permission. The lease agreement has to not have the clause that says like unable to sublease or whatever. So that can't be on there. But a lot of landlords are, they're trying it out, because they're also like, as long as you pay me my rent, if they're charging $1,400 for a 1-bedroom, look, I'm going to give you $1,400 every month, 1-year contracts, and then I'm going to list it, and whatever I make in addition to that, I keep. So it really depends, but it's doable. You can do it. It's a model that's being promoted a lot out there. Like I'm seeing it in IG now, pop off here and there. It works, but you got to do it in the right market, and you got to get permission. So those are like the two biggest things.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've heard of the like Airbnb arbitrage and people, I haven't seen it much in New Jersey, and like I said, I think most people were having the idea of it being in vacation spots or just spots that were a little bit more conducive. Because I remember one buddy, he finished his basement beautifully, Airbnb model, and I think he mentioned like there was people that were coming in from like Ohio or like Kentucky or whatever the case, and and this, mind you, this spot was in Newark. So they're like, and not like downtown Newark, like I'm talking about like South Newark, right? So and I guess people were like showing up and they were like, what is this? Like, we have no idea.
That's their fault for not researching the market.
Agreed. I just thought it was funny because I was, because he showed me, he was banking and he was showing me all the bookings that were coming in. I was like, yo, I need to do Airbnb. Yeah. I got to ask how he's doing with it. But that was just something that he told me.
It works. It really does work, especially in the right place. If you're offering amenities like parking and Wi-Fi and things like that, because you got to think about, especially like family. So I have a couple of people like in Georgia, they've already DM'd me, hey, when's your Airbnb? Because I have it blocked off. It's rented through the end of April with the nurses because they ended up staying longer. But then I closed off the calendar from May forward because I'm planning to do some other things, right, with that unit. But I have a couple of people already asking because they want to come up with their kids for like spring break or like summer vacation, right? Because again, you have a kitchen, you have a living room, you have parking, you have Wi-Fi. It's cheaper than staying in a hotel. You can cook your own meals. So if you think about it, it's not just a vacation destination that you can do it with, but if you're in a major city, it can really work because you have people that, visit family. They come in on job interviews. They come in on special assignments. Now that you got people that are working remotely, so you can go work anywhere. You don't have to be in an office. So I'll go stay in an Airbnb in Miami for 3 weeks on a balcony,
Yeah.
do my work.
Yeah.
I have a vacant unit now that I'm thinking about converting to Airbnb.
There you go.
Do it.
Oh, you got the thinking face.
At this point, like it's so like, no, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, and you're planning to add 4 more units this year.
Yes.
Airbnb.
Yeah, and that's mostly because also the pivoting, right? So like with COVID and all the eviction policies being pushed over. So I think it's now June, July. I don't even know. I can't even keep track anymore. But I don't want to keep thinking about getting into more rentals. The market is also priced really high right now. So in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to get into another rental property, which we're looking for, because the prices are just not there. It's not making any sense. So I'd rather take some of that money and just, try out the Airbnb model with the renter, as a renter. Because I can probably yield the same, or more from a door,
less
from
risk.
a key. With less risk. I don't have to worry about snow, right? I don't got to run over there and shovel or call someone to shovel. It's not my unit. I'm just renting it.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean?
Makes so much.
If something breaks, I'm calling the landlord. I'm like, hey, by the way, something broke. Like, I don't have that responsibility that I already have with all these other units. Mm-hmm. So in my mind, it just made so much more sense. Now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, yeah, I'm right.
Yeah, no, I was about to say, because like yeah.
So
that makes sense. All right, well,
so we'll be in touch some more. So if you have any questions, just hit me up.
Maybe, of course. Because it's got my mind going, because that's the biggest question. Like, how do we make more income and less risk, and take as much risk as possible out of it? But all right, all good. John, you want to bring us through the core 4?
Yeah, let's go to the core 4. We usually ask these 4 questions to all guests. I'm sure you answered these in the last episode, but number 1 is, what's your favorite aspect about real estate?
Freedom of time. The freedom of time. I hate sitting on a desk for 9 hours a day. I can just do what I need to do for that day. And there's days that I don't have any work to do, really. The rent still comes in. I don't have to bother with stuff. Mm-hmm. Freedom of time, for sure.
Nice.
I agree. Number 2, what's your favorite business or personal development book? And you can't use the same one as last.
They're right behind me. Let me see. I have a bunch. I have a lot.
No Rich Dad Poor Dad. I don't think
I'm
going to allow
that
on the show. I'm not going to allow that on the show. That should be. Yeah, that's like, have you ever read Dr. Seuss for like all the investors? It's like,
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm not a fan of his anymore after what he pulled last year.
I stopped there. I threw his book out.
And I unfollowed his ass too. So.
Quick fair. I wasn't even following him, but it was just like, bro, you out of here.
Yeah.
And it was a post and delete too. I was like, we caught that, bro.
We really know how he feels, right?
Well, of course we know. Yeah, like we know exactly what it was.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Shift Your Thinking. Shift Your Thinking by Del Sesto. I'll show you right now. I have it right here.
Shift Your Thinking. Yeah. I use this question selfishly because it allows me to expand my book list.
Same here. I'm more of an audible kind of person. I gotta do more physical. I haven't done physical in some time.
I'm doing audible now too. Yeah, these are just some of my treasures that I keep nearby. But this one is great because it's small, it's very simple, and it's all about mindset. How to think differently when it comes to family and money and friendships, conversations, timing. Like certain things that were really never like stop to question. So it really does help me to kind of.
I've added to the list. Oh, it's only $7.
Yeah, it's an oldie. It's been around forever.
Really? I've never heard of it. I've added it.
All right. The next question is, what are some fun things you do in your spare time when you're not educating the world, when you're not investing in real estate, not doing Airbnb? What you like to do in your spare time?
I like to mix drinks. I have a full bar at home.
Mixologist. Okay.
Yeah. I just like chilling at home. I mean, we've been home for a year now, so it's like not much more we can do. But for now, yeah, I mix drinks at home. I always come up with some new recipes. I like having people over. We have a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old that's here on the weekends, and my little one. So we do a lot of dance offs, and
Awesome.
try and keep it fun. Yeah.
Great family time. Love it.
Awesome. Love it. And the last question is, where can people find you?
Yes. So on Instagram at urbanteach_, because I changed it. I took the NYC off.
I did see that. And I was just like, wasn't that okay? So that wasn't just me. I just changed my tag to the more than an agent.
I like that one though, Austin. That's a really good one.
So I asked the individual. They had more than an agent with nothing, just perfect. But it's some guy, of course, that has 10 followers and doesn't use the platform at all. So I DM'd him like, yo, I will pay you for I just want that particular, and I don't even know how it works per se. I don't know if he changes it, if I will be able, I tried to use it like a domain link, if it's just release it and just sell me the rights. But so I was playing around with it a little bit, and then I just put the underscore at the end. I was just like, perfect.
Yeah, I like it. It looks good. Yeah. So I took the NYC off because since I'm also doing Jersey, I was kind of having a moment. Last week I did Urban Teach NYNJ. And then I had a friend of mine who does branding, and he's like, look, why are you just limiting yourself to, NYNJ? You might actually turn off some people that, and I have people that take classes with me that are in California, they're in Texas, they're in Florida. So I thought about it for a moment. I said, I don't want to limit myself to just my market, because some of the stuff I teach can be applicable to any market, really. So I dropped NYNJ, and then I dropped NYC. I still have to drop it from the website and everywhere else, but I started with Instagram. So under Urban Teach _, and then the Spanish page is Urban Teach Latin X with an X at the end. So that's all in Spanish. And yeah, that's how you guys can find me.
Awesome. I as a bonus question here as we wrap up, in the long run, do you think that it's going to be more Air BnB models versus rentals? Are you completely just COVID or no COVID? Are you just completely getting away from that particular model, or is COVID kind of COVID and the prices here in New Jersey kind of the X factor?
No, I think I want to do a little bit of both. So I'm going to keep a good balance, because at the end of the day, the steady renter is more of a secure thing long term, right? So after we go back to normal, people are always going to need a place to live. I do Section 8 rentals as well, which the money comes in every month, so I don't have to worry about it. So my goal is to, do Airbnb, just because I'm using my hospitality experience to apply it towards making more money that way, but I still want to keep some renters, of course. Yes. Gotcha.
Yeah. And you're saying in Jersey, would you do the lease, the Airbnb arbitrage in say Miami or interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm looking at Fort Lauderdale, Miami,
nice,
probably Atlanta, which we're gonna go to in May for a weekend, and then Jersey, New York. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So just key cities. And then, my thought is to kind of have them all look and feel the same, so that if you stay in one, you can stay in the next one and know what to expect, kind of thing. Kind of like hotels. That's how they do it. You stay at Hilton, the Hiltons all look the same, right? So I'm going to do the same thing. That's it.
That's awesome. I love that. I'm good.
Good.
Cool.
Are you good?
I'm good as well.
Thank you,
Rosa,
guys.
as always, thank you for coming on to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Graciousness with the presence in the gyms and the kind of noteworthy investment opportunities, and just sharing the story of just how you started and how you were able to grow in, and more importantly, the discipline to continue to grow. And I think that is also once I think we hit a certain peak of success, it's actually a lot easier to go backwards than it is to keep the innovation and keep trying and keep, doing things differently. So we commend you on that for sure. And thank you for stopping by. And I know the guests definitely have some actionable items that they at least can take advantage of, kind of right away, or just something that makes them ponder and just start to ask questions. And hopefully people reach out just to learn more about the Airbnb model and all the other services that you provide as well. So I
Awesome.
appreciate you coming on the show, without a doubt.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, thank you, John and Austin. Yeah, for sure. Just invite me over whenever. I'll be more than happy to.
Well, if anything, like I'll join you and Ben, and we'll have those cocktails, and whatever you're making, we'll stop by, and I'll grab that.
Totally. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Enjoy.
All right, we'll chat.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Bye. Have a good one.